Okay, councillors. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the council chambers for the June meeting. And I must say it's a pleasure to be back in the council chambers rather than being in other premises. These are quite comfortable premises, but not to say we didn't enjoy visiting other locations as well throughout the council. If I could just ask if mobile phones and devices could be turned off or onto silent, please. And I would also like to specifically welcome the Venturers Group sitting up the back there. From Myrtleford, yes, the Myrtleford Venturers Group. And I've already had a brief discussion with you out in the foyer, but also happy to have further discussion with you after the meeting if there's something you want to clarify about anything in the agenda tonight.
There's a few agendas on the table over there, Robert.
Well, there's a couple of agendas there. If they want to just have a squiz through. Yeah, you might as well take them all because I don't think there's anyone else who's going to be attending. Item 1, recording and live streaming of council meetings. Mr. Bird.
All the council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on an area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. By speaking during question time or at any time during the meeting, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reason behind recording council meetings is of course to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council's decision making to our community. The full meeting is being recorded and a copy will be uploaded to Council's YouTube channel, Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you. Item 2, acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people. If you can all stand, please.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. Somebody walking. Oh, okay. Yeah. Item 3, 3.1. Confirmation of minutes, the ordinary council meeting 7th of May 2019.
Move those.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Knapstein. All those in favour? Carried. Apologies, I have two apologies. Councillor Forsyth and Councillor Roper, who are both out of country at the moment. Obituaries and congratulations. If I could just start myself with an obituary to Mr. Peter Stokey, who recently passed away. Peter was an avid naturalist and person who loved the environment, and he was given the Order of Australia Medal last year for his work in relation to the malleefowl and a lot of statistics gathering in relation to malleefowl, and he was also the secretary of the Upper Ovens Valley Landcare Group and responsible for organising many tree plantings, projects, and land care initiatives. So our condolences to the Stokey family, and his son was once an employee here as well for a couple of years. And then I'll move from my left, Councillor Pearce.
What are we on for?
Obituaries and
Sorry.
congratulations.
This is on Big Alan Finlay, great hero. We did pay tribute to him last meeting, but just this week I went to his funeral over in Moe, which was greatly received, and I guess about 20 or 30 people from over here attended over there at Moe, so well done. And we have got a thing on Friday, Kitty. What? Down the park, I think Howard Park. Friday, I think at 1 o'clock, so thanks, mate.
Councillor Keeble.
I have a congratulations. Just wanted to congratulate all the community groups and school groups who conducted activities during Reconciliation Week last week. It's a big week for Australia. It's important that our communities recognise the oldest living cultures in the world and the Indigenous culture in our country, and that we learn to live together. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Nicholas.
I have a congratulations for the first Bright Cubs group for starting the Project Platypus project that they're working on. It started off with an unfortunate euthanasia of a small platypus because of hair ties that they got caught around its neck and feet. 5 days after the kids' initial meeting, they had a walk where parents and children collected lots and lots and lots of rubbish, and Alpine Shire supported that and is supporting the project into the future. But the kids have completely driven it by themselves, obviously with some adult support, but their ideas, and they did all the contacting of Shire to get the help, and they are planning to do monthly walks into the future. So just a fabulous, fabulous initiative by our young people.
Thank you. Councillor Knapstein.
I'd like to sadly note the passing of Jill Graves, well-loved member of the community and who also was a nursing unit manager and director of nursing with Alpine Health, and she passed away here in Bright at the hospital that she had been a director of nursing and nursing unit manager of. So condolences to her family, and she'll be sadly missed.
Indeed. Item 6, declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. Are there none? None declared. Thank you. Public questions on agenda items. I understand that we have Mrs. Pike here who has given us a question on notice. Mary, if you know the drill.
Hope so.
You don't want me to repeat the question though, do you?
No, we have the question in front of us, but if you'd like to sort of just give the background into that.
Okay, there's a facility adjacent to the Mount Beauty Visitor Information Centre, which is owned by the Shire and is used for community events. Through the preceding years, it's been called the Hoppet Office, Cranky Charlie's. Hoppet Office for 1 week, Cranky Charlie's for 1 weekend, and it had no name which was ongoing apart from that. So a few years ago now, I think Heather Green was still here at the time, so it is a few years ago, we asked for it to be given a name. We went through community consultation and the name was brought up, Auditorium at Information Centre. The Shire agreed with it and actually made a sign, one of those expensive, I imagine expensive signs that's outside the building. But unfortunately, the Shire itself doesn't refer to the building as Auditorium at Information Centre. So if I went online to try and book it for a meeting, I wouldn't find it in your list of community venues. Also, when it's been used recently for the driver education one that was on a couple of weeks ago, the poster that came out advertising it called it the Mount Beauty Visitor Information Centre Auditorium, and that's not the name of it, it's not the name that appears on the outside of the building, and I just simply ask that the Shire change all their recordings to make sure they use the right name for the facility, that's all.
Thank you. Ms Cook, you have a response or something to that?
Just thank you, Mary. I had a quick look on our website just to confirm how it's being reflected, and it is and on our website it's called the Mount Beauty Auditorium. We are in the process of undertaking implementing a facilities booking system, and we can look at what the names are when it goes out on that. I think sometimes because it's known as a few different names within the community and the communities do their own flyers, sometimes it gets a little confused. So happy to take that.
It's got an enormous sign on it now.
I do remember not very long ago I went to a community event up there too, and I was directed to go to Cranky Charlie's, and I had no idea where that was. So it took us quite a long time to find it. So we're happy to look at it when we put out.
And I was with her, and we were both driving around town, lost.
It's a corner, isn't it?
That's where we ended up.
We did, because I ended up putting Cranky Charlie's into Google Maps, and that's where it sent me. So happy to look at it and get in contact again when we've got that system in place and make sure we just standardise what it's called.
I mean, it's a minor thing, but it's just the name is there, why don't we use it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the floor? Yes, sir.
Keith Pike from Toowoomba South. Look, it's just concerning the L2P program. I'm wondering whether, and this is obviously for some consideration of council, I'm wondering whether it's possible for people involved with the L2P program to be made more aware of the budgeting process, the way the L2P program works as far as the budget's concerned. A number of us feel it's fairly opaque. We've been involved with fundraising over the years and are still involved in fundraising, and we'd just like to have a bit more information about how that budgeting process works. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Is it your area, Will?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Keith. That falls within my area. I'm very happy to share any information on how we put the budget together and what it covers. I'll get in contact with you after the meeting, and we're happy to share that.
Oh, sorry. Apologise.
The more meetings you come to, Keith, you'll learn. Yes, you have a good teacher beside you. Yes, absolutely.
This is following up from the last council meeting I was at in May, when there was an agenda item regarding the establishment of a memorial plaque on a rock in Apex Park for one of the local community members who had passed away. And nothing was resolved that night. I've seen nothing resolved since, so I'm assuming it's still rather up in the air. And I'm just wondering if the council would consider establishing an arrangement where, a little like, if you've seen it, our Honour Rock in Mount Beauty, where we have one rock and every year the community person who wins an award, the name is on the rock. I'm just thinking, rather than the problems that arose last time where it was, oh, we'll only have it there for 10 years and then we'll take it and give it back to the family. I mean, the family down the track, the grandchildren might like to see the plaque still in a position of honour in the town. And I'm just wondering if there could be some arrangement made where each one of the communities had the option of putting something into a particular spot, rather than having higgledy-piggledy all over the place. It doesn't have to be a rock. It might be some nice metal piece of work that plaques are put on every year, and it only takes a minor place in a park of prominence. And I was quite surprised when I found out where Apex Park is, that it's not in a position of prominence. So just a thought for the council that might resolve some of the questions that came up last time. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mary. We'll take that into consideration. And just to confirm, the area where it was suggested is basically outside the the home of the person has significance for the family in that location. But as our policy, Ms Cook, have you got anything further on our policy at this point? I know it's...
So the way that memorials are managed in the Shire is actually under the direction of a policy. The policy is quite old. It's an externally facing policy, which means it's one that it impacts on customers outside of staff. And so we will be reviewing that policy. We aren't able to simply make a simple change to it in response to that council meeting. So what we will be doing is we're doing a whole-scale review of that policy, and it will need to go out for public consultation prior to councillors considering feedback on that consultation, because it has an impact across the Shire. So we're able to consider any models within that policy to put forward for consultation. So so that'll be happening in the next couple of months. It needs to get onto an officer's work plan to actually undertake that work. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. There being no further questions, we'll move on with the agenda. Presentation of reports by officers, 8.1.1, Mr Bird, the recommendation contracts approved by the CEO be noted.
Move that.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Keeble, thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Keeble.
The footpath renewal for 110,000. Where are those renewals, please, Will?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Those renewals are scattered across the Shire, so they're not in one specific location. They're just areas where we've identified that there's a need to renew sections of footpath.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. Item 8.2, 8.2.1, Health and Safety Policy, Director Corporate, Ms Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the 2019 review of the Health and Safety Policy, being number 52. The current Health and Safety Policy was last reviewed and adopted in December 2017. The content has been reviewed for compliance with relevant legislation. We've also benchmarked against other government health and safety policies, and this did not result in any changes to the content or the intent of the policy. It has simply been moved into
Councillor
the new
Keeble,
template.
sorry. Councillor Keeble, Councillor Pearce. Discussion, councillors?
No, housekeeping. The health and safety policy is obviously a very important policy for the Shire, and it's good to see that it has been reviewed recently with minimal changes. Thank you.
Further comment or discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2.2, revocation of employee employment, discrimination and harassment policies. Ms Cook again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council is in the process of undertaking a holistic review of a number of its policies, which you may be able to tell from the amount of policies in this agenda and previous agenda items as well. What we have done is we have reviewed, we have written a new equal employment opportunity discrimination and harassment policy, which actually incorporates a number of policies into this, so that a number of policies were approved by the CEO and some were also approved by Council, so that the CEO may approve the new policy, which is in line with current legislation and best practice for this in this space. We ask that Council approve the revocation of the two old policies, both from 1997, that were then approved by Council.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble, Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Keeble, any comment?
Again, housekeeping, but again, a very important policy. It's good to see these were 1997, so the equal opportunity and our communities have moved slightly since 1997. So it's good to see that we've looked at that policy and with some changes in there. And I guess this particular revocation or to revoke this is to allow the CEO to continue with the work that he needs to do to get that approved.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas.
Nothing to add.
Any further comment?
No.
All those in favour? Carried. And it is time to update it from 1997 because community expectations have certainly changed since that time, and certainly so they should have in some of these instances. 8.2.3, Councillor reimbursement of expenses policy. Ms Cook, this is a policy night.
Another policy. A year ago, we undertook quite a comprehensive review of this policy. At that time, we chose to put the policy in place for only 1 year with a 1-year review period, because at that time we were anticipating a new Local Government Act coming into force, which would mean there would be whole-scale changes potentially to this policy. What has happened in the meantime is the bill that was on the table at that time has not become legislation, so those changes have not come into force, and this policy requires a review. We have done a review of the policy and we are recommending very minor changes, mainly to update content of a topographical kind of nature. The policy is attached to the documentation for more information.
Thank you. Recommendation, Councillor Keeble, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Keeble.
Another policy, this one again housekeeping, that's revoke, adopt and sign tonight. I note that there's just some spelling and typographical improvements in there really, so I guess we'll wait to see if there's any changes from the state government to the Act eventually.
There was capital C's and should have been small c's. Okay.
I mean, it's an important one in regards to keeping councillors' expenditure following the process and right protocol. So in those regards, the communities should be comfortable that policy is being followed.
Yes. I'll take it to the vote before I make any further comment. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Yes, it doesn't mean that councillors receive any further remuneration in any form whatsoever. So we're very much on track, and I can say that I'm quite proud that our councillors are very cognisant of cost at all times. Item 8.2.4, Council Plan Quarterly Report. Ms Cook again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide the third quarterly report for the 2018-19 year against our Alpine Shire Council Plan 2017 to 2021. There are a number of highlights in the report. Under a high-performing organisation, we've pointed out that Council's website refresh project is progressing, with content being reviewed and Stage 1 being due to be launched at the end of July, beginning of August 2019, and Stage 2 being completed by December 2019. In addition, our business system strategy review is nearing completion, with the draft 3-year roadmap now in place, and the review of Council's policies being progressing, as you can tell. The draft Municipal Emergency Management Fire Plan has also been developed this quarter, with consultation being undertaken throughout the sector. We've had 2 free green waste disposal days, both in March and early April, and both occurred with good participation rates across the Shire. Our after-hours access to the Bright Sports Centre is now operational as well. We've undertaken a review of the community local law, with the final report being presented to the April Council meeting. The Domestic Wastewater Management Plan was adopted at the March Council meeting, which provides an important framework and action plan for managing on-site wastewater systems. And the last point to highlight is that March is the second largest month in the year for our event delivery, and there are a number of events throughout March, including the monthly farmers markets, the High Country Charity Ride, the Myrtleford Festival, the Peaks Challenge, Brighter Days, Dedarang Picnic Races, the Great Alpine Classic Golf Tournament, the Veteran Car Club Rally, and the High Country Women's Cycling Festival. So it's a busy quarter for events as well.
So moved.
Second.
Hang on. Councillor Nicholas, who was the seconder? Councillor Keeble. Councillor Nicholas.
There's a number of things that have been pointed out in the highlight that was started 2.5 years ago, roughly, when I was first elected, and so it's absolutely fabulous to see some of it coming to fruition. And it happens because we've got a great community and a great group of people who work for and with the community as council staff. So thank you, everybody who's put in so hard.
Yeah.
Councillor Keeble?
Concur with Councillor Nichols. The one I wanted to point out, which is more than 2.5 years ago, is the bid under Responsible Sustainable Organisation. The Council's Business Systems Strategy Review is nearing completion. The Council, I can't remember, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, looked at some efficiencies in regards to its systems that it uses and electronic systems, and it's good to see that a lot of those have now put into place and they're running the business, and that's certainly making a difference to the sustainability of this organisation, which is a small shire. So it's good to see. It's taken a lot of work.
Yes. Further comments? None? All those in favour? Carried. Right. 8.2.5, Finance Report Quarterly Review. Ms Cook again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to note the Finance Report Quarterly Review for the periods both ending the 31st of March and the 31st of December 2018. 31st of March 2019, just to be clear. The purpose of the report is to provide Council with an overview of the quarterly results and an update on the financial forecast position against the full year budget. Explanations in the full report, which is an attachment to the papers, if you'd like to have a look at that full report, are provided for variances to budget that are greater than $100,000. Just to point out some highlights, Council is forecasting a full year surplus of $7.2 million, which is higher than the $3.4 million budget, higher than the budgeted surplus of $3.8 million at the beginning of the year. Now, there are some primary drivers for this, and if that have been carried through since the beginning of the financial year. One of those is the grant income of the Victorians Grant Commission funding coming in 50% in this financial year rather than all of it last financial year. So we've been carrying that additional surplus for the entirety of the year. In addition, we've received some unbudgeted capital works grants as well. So our income has changed since our budgeted position at the beginning of the year. We also have had the financial impact of a number of vacancies within our staffing, which has also been carried through to the year, although I do believe that we are slowly catching up on that throughout this year. There has been some expenses that have offset those large changes in income, which are detailed in the report, that include a change in the rates in lieu that we income budgeted for AGL to come in, and also some flood remediation works. The other major forecast variances to the budget are detailed and have been discussed in detail throughout the process of the quarter.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble, seconder. Councillor Knapstein. Councillor Keeble.
The finance report for this quarter, we can see there that we're supposed to have this huge surplus, but again, it's due to funding and anomalies from the state government when we get our money, and so we can't always plan for when we get that, and they make those decisions themselves. So in regards to the rest of the budget, I think it's tracking nicely, so it's great to see. Well done to the team for keeping the surplus going. It allows us to do the works that we've done the last few years and continue to do some of those works for the next few years, so thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment, Councillor Knapstein? No? He did. He's very articulate. We'll take the vote. All those in favour? Carried. So the budget process on the 18th, when the council adopt the budget on the 18th of next month, might show some different figures. Item 8.2.6, dinner plane design guidelines.
This is an administrative issue, Mr Mayor. In November 2017, Council resolved to prepare a planning scheme amendment under a number C53, that planning scheme amendment being to the dinner plane design guidelines. In summary, there has been a change of software in the State Government Department for which we have to submit that planning scheme amendment, which means we can't assign it the number C53, which is the legal number that... Second.
sorry, Councillor Pearce and Councillor Knapstein. Councillor Pearce?
I think, I acknowledge notice a change of number in the system. C53 to C59.
Councillor Knapstein, yes. Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. I was just enjoying Ms Cook having to give the long explanation about a 53 and a 59.
And our transfer site as well.
And okay, that's it. Item 9, Assembly of Councillors.
So moved.
Yeah. Councillor Keeble, Councillor Nicholas. Any discussion? No. All those in favour? Carried. General business, item 10 from my right. None. Councillor Nicholas?
Nope, none.
Councillor Pearce? No.
I just want to
Councillor Keeble? Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank Will and his team for getting the disabled parking in Mount Beauty all sorted out. Both the areas there have been completed. I haven't spoken to any of the attendees at the meeting yet, but hopefully they're happy with the outcome. Mary can nod her head if she's spoken to anyone. She can, no worries. Not the skate park, the disabled parking in town.
In the main street.
In the main street.
Yep.
Thumbs up, great. My apologies, I've got a croaky voice tonight. So I just want to say thank you, because I mentioned it at the last meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Pearce?
No, thanks, Mayor.
No, thank you. Okay, very good. Mr. Jeremy, you've got off very lightly this evening, and we hope there are no typographical errors in your typing tonight, your record keeping. Item 11, motions for which notice has previously been given. There are nil. And item 12, reception and reading of petitions. There are nil. Item 13, documents for sealing. Move in a second for that, please. Councillor Knapstein. And Councillor Keeble. Yes, all those in favour? Yes, carried. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:33 p.m. Thank you very much for your attendance. Long way to come for policy changes tonight. And to the young people at the back, as I explained to you earlier, this was sort of a pretty administrative type meeting tonight, but I have explained the circumstances when we do have items that have got a lot more community involvement, and how we deal with some of that during our meeting. So if you want to have a further chat after that and have a look around, we're happy to show you about. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Good night.